I'm going to show you how to rank #1 on Amazon KDP, and I can prove that this works because I've done it, and within 45 days, my book was ranking so high, it turned profitable, and I was able to make over $1,000 a month steadily from this book. That's net profit, not revenue. But anyway, I'm going to show you the system that I've used, and multiple of my clients and multiple of my program members have used this to start scaling their books and actually rank higher. But anyway, let's talk about ranking #1 on Amazon KDP. Now, we can't rank #1 on Amazon unless we are the best. You can't become the best unless you understand the fundamentals. So, what are the fundamentals of ranking? Now, what does ranking mean? Before we can understand what ranking means and how to actually rank #1, we need to understand something extremely important, and that's indexing. Now, what's indexing? Some publishers think indexing is exactly the same as ranking, and that is terrible. Don't think that. It's completely different. Ranking is completely different from indexing. Now, what indexing actually means is, did your book show up? What do I mean by show up? Show up basically means, did I show up for a certain keyword in the search results? Regardless if it's page 5, page 7, page 1, regardless of what page you're shown, did you show up for a keyword? So someone types in on Amazon, up here is a search bar, they typed in dog training. I can't write training. Look at that. I also gave Ollie the owl a little special thing. I'm thinking of drawing a nest, but I don't know if owls stay in a nest or if they just fly around all the time. I'm sure they have a nest, but I'll watch some National Geographic documentary later on, and the next time I'll draw a nest for Ollie the owl. But anyway, let's say someone searches dog training. If I'm selling a dog training book and I'm indexed for the keyword dog training, that means my book can pop up on the search results, and it will show up in the search results. Now, my book might show up on page 4, but still, that means my book is still indexed. So, when it comes to indexing, you can either not be indexed or you can be indexed for a keyword. 1 second, I'll be back because coffee's almost ready. There we go, look at that. Another cup of coffee. Anyway, where was I? So ranking. Yeah, you can either show up or you can't show up. Now, if you're not indexed for the keyword, then you have some SEO to do. You just need to make sure that the keyword you're trying to index for is somewhere in your SEO, and then you start indexing for it. However, what happens if you are indexed for that keyword? Well, that's when we can talk about ranking, because that's where ranking comes in. So if you're indexed for a keyword, then you can think about your rank. Now, what does ranking mean? Ranking means for this keyword that someone searched, where are you being shown for it? So in other words, what position are you on a page? What page are you on? How high or how low up the page are you? That's what ranking is. However, you can't rank, you can't be placed in a position for a keyword if you're not indexed for the keyword. So you index for the keyword by making sure your keyword's in your SEO, and then you can start thinking about ranking. Now, ranking is where you're placed on Amazon, or the position, what page you're on, and how high or low you are on a page. So how do we figure out how that works? How does Amazon determine where to position your book? Now, let's actually think about it. Okay, let's say you were Amazon. You're Amazon. How would you determine where to place the books on which page and how high or low? I mean, think about it. Where would you do it if you were Amazon? How would you figure out who you're going to put on page 1, #1, and how are you going to figure out who you're going to put on page 2, number 13, all the way down page 2? How do you figure that out? Well, some of you might say, okay, well, I'll just put the newest books first, because the newest books are going to be the most intriguing ones. Oh, it's new and everyone's looking for the new ones. I'll put those first. And maybe you can mix them with some long-term selling books. So you're going to have some new books and some long-term selling books. Well, here's the problem. With new books, you don't know if that book is, I'm going to swear, sorry, but I'm going to have to swear, but you don't know if that book is shit. If that book is shit, then you're losing money as Amazon. And you're Amazon, so the whole point of you being Amazon is to run a business. You're trying to make as much money as possible. Now, if you're showing people on page 1, and by the way, people on page 1, 100% of everyone who searches dog training book will see the results on page 1. Not all of them, but 100% of people are going to be on page 1. Now, guess what that percentage becomes on page 2? How many of these people actually click on page 2? Well, that's actually around 30%. So if you're ranking very low on page 2, then you're only getting 30% of the potential volume that you would have gotten if you were on page 1. So it's extremely important to rank super, super high in order for you to get the most amount of impressions and clicks and exposure in general. But anyway, we want to put, as Amazon, I'm guessing, we want to put the shit books on page 2, correct? And we want to put the good books on page 1. Because they're the ones most likely to give us the most amount of money, because they're most likely to make the most amount of sales. I hope that makes sense. Now, Amazon has never revealed exactly how the algorithm works, but we can make some assumptions that are logical enough to understand how the algorithm works. Because at the end of the day, Amazon just wants to make money. Now, another option, you might say, well, I'll just show the most selling books on page 1. Well, that becomes a little bit tricky because at the end of the day, probably 50 Shades of Grey will be all over the place. And Harry Potter is probably going to be all over the place as well, because they've been selling for a very, very long time in massive amounts. So how does Amazon combat this problem? How does it figure out how to rank your book? Well, they actually have a super simple system. Now, I'm not 100% guaranteeing you that I understand everything about the algorithm, exactly how it works, because I worked at Amazon and I saw the engineering behind the code and things. I don't understand any of that. But what I do understand is that Amazon is a business, they want to make money, and there has to be a system in place in the background that is going to allow them to make the most amount of money as effectively as possible at all times as possible. I don't know if that's correct English, but I'm just going to stick with it. So if I was Amazon, personally, I would look at the sales per hour or sales per day. Sales per hour will be more accurate, but sales per day works the same. Let's just say sales per day because that's just easier maths. Now, what does this mean? That means that if I have, let's say I have 2 pages, just to make the math super simple. If I have 20 books as Amazon, 20 books that are selling in the dog training niche, let's just say, I can try to find the relevant keywords, dog training book. I found 20 books. And then what I want to do with these 20 books is I want to see the 10 best-selling ones based on the sales per day. And then I want to see the 10 worst ones based on the sales per day. That way, I can take the worst ones, put them on page 2 because they're less likely to sell. And then I can take the 10 best ones, the highest selling ones per day. I can put them on page 1 because they're going to get the most amount of views. The most amount of views or impressions or clicks, they're going to go to the strongest books based on the sales per day. Because this means the sales is the most amount of money that Amazon makes. Now, sometimes it's not the overall money that Amazon looks at. It just looks at the sales per day. And then per day means that it's up to date. So I'm showing the books that have consistently been giving me money up to date. Not 2 years ago, not 6 months ago, but like a week ago, or this month, or last month. And it compares the data to find the books that sell the most amount and in a up-to-date manner. Now, there's one more very, very, very important thing that Amazon looks at, and that's customer satisfaction. And how does it do this? Well, if Amazon starts pushing a book, or let's say you were Amazon, you started pushing a book on page 1 all the way at the top because it's making 20 sales a day, let's say, in the dog training niche. So when people type in dog training, this book is indexed for that keyword, and it's being shown all the way to the top because it's making 20 sales a day. It's the most sold one every single day, which is why it's super, super high. Well, what happens if this book starts getting 3-star reviews and 2-star reviews? You're going to assume, oh, this is a bad product. Even though it's making a lot of sales, I'm still going to keep it high, but I'm going to push it a little bit lower because it's not giving customer satisfaction. And this is what determines long-term success, long-term growth. If the customers aren't satisfied, especially the initial customers, that's not going to help you boost your book forward. However, if Amazon sees super high ratings, it knows customer satisfaction is good. It can see the long-term growth of the book is going to be good because it's not getting negative reviews, it's not pushing it down, and it will just start promoting you even more. So if your book is making a lot of sales and the sales are up to date and you are getting positive reviews because you actually have a good book, remember, we don't want a shit book. We never want a shit book. We always want a good book. Then Amazon can start pushing your book higher and higher up the rankings, as long as you're indexed for that keyword. And obviously, as long as your book is good, and then you're making consistent sales up to date. That's how you start gaining rank. But here's the thing. Why is it that sometimes my book might be ranked number 1 on page 1 for a certain search term, and then sometimes for a very similar search term, it's all the way on page 2? Why is that? Well, I'm going to show you why that happens right now. Now, let's say we're selling a dog training book, but this is for adults. Okay, so we're selling a dog training book for adults. I'm going to try and draw a dog here, but that's a terrible dog. Wow. That's a human. It's okay. Pretend that this is a dog and not a human mouse or something, but let's just say you're selling a dog training book. Now, this is targeted towards beginners. So someone searches dog training for kids, and then your book is shown all the way on the bottom of page 1. What does that tell Amazon? What does that tell us? That means that your book is probably not gaining a lot of sales for this keyword. Now, why is it not gaining a lot of sales? Well, that's because the customer that's searching for this might not necessarily be searching for this because these are not 100% relevant. So this is less relevant. If we're selling a dog training book for beginners, or it's targeted towards adults and it has real images and it has maybe a little bit difficult to read, so it's not like grade 4 level, it's not super easy to read for kids, then our book might not be appropriate for kids. And because Amazon can see that people that are searching dog training for beginners, they love our book. That's exactly what they're searching for. Amazon pushes it higher because it's making a lot of sales. But then when people search dog training for kids, even if we're indexed for that keyword, we're going to be shown a little bit low because people that are searching training for kids might be looking for illustrations and super simple design, super simple crystal clear writing, something more visually appealing for children, which is not what our book is. That's why Amazon's algorithm, it extracts each and every single individual keyword based on your indexing, and it tests your book for each and every single individual keyword. And it sees how it performs. And based on the performance of the sales, it's going to determine where to place you. So for which keywords are you selling and for which ones are you completely irrelevant? And then based on those factors, it's going to determine where it's going to position you on a page. If it's completely irrelevant, you might be on page 2 and page 3. If you're extremely relevant and you're making a lot of sales because of it, then you're going to slowly be getting pushed higher and higher. Great. So now that we understand the fundamentals, how do we actually rank on page 1? And it's way easier than you think, as long as you're willing to put in a little bit of work. I'm not this KDP guru that's going to come here and tell you, oh, it's super easy. It's super, super easy to do this. Oh, just make a book on Canva, put it up, you're going to be a millionaire. I'm not going to do that for you. I'm here to tell you how everything actually works, and it is going to require a little bit of effort, but obviously it's going to be worth it because you'll be ranking very high and making a lot of money. So if that's something you want to do, stick around. I'm going to show you exactly how to do this. Now, the first step is obviously to pick relevant keywords. Now, what do I mean by relevant keywords? It's extremely important to understand this because this is the first step. If you mess up the first step, nothing else will happen. Nothing else will make sense. Your book won't perform as well as it could be performing. So what's relevant keywords? I actually had someone in the comment section. I'm not dissing them or anything, but I'm just saying that there was someone in the comment section and they said, hey, Barry, I tried your ad strategy and I targeted a broad keyword that was part of my niche. And his keyword was kids book. Now, some of you might say, okay, well, if it's a kids book, then that's appropriate. And yes, it's appropriate, but it's not hyper relevant. It's not hyper specific. It's not relevant keyword. It's a very, very broad keyword. Because if I tell you I'm selling a kids book, what book would you assume that I'm selling? Well, you might say, oh, you're selling a jokes book for kids. You might be selling a coloring book for kids. You might be selling a dinosaur encyclopedia for kids. You might be selling a kids cookbook. It can be a sports book. It can be a story book. It can be all these different types of books because this keyword right here is not relevant. It's broadly relevant, but we want it to be hyper relevant. We want it to be hyper specific. Now, if you only have 3 or 4 keywords, that's okay. As long as they're hyper specific, that's going to teach Amazon what it's supposed to do. You're going to index for the correct keywords, which means you're being shown in the correct places. And then when you want to start ranking high, because your book is relevant, you're going to have a much higher chance of ranking really high for the relevant keywords. Because you're not trying to sell to people that aren't going to buy your book. It's like you're at the Christmas market and you're selling vodka bottles. Okay, and there's a bunch of kids around. And then there's like 2 adults in the distance. And then you're trying to sell vodka bottles to kids. But the adults are right there. They're super willing to buy your vodka. You get me? They probably have 4 kids and they need that vodka to survive. So they're probably going to come to you and actually buy the vodka. But you're so busy trying to sell to these little kids, they're never going to buy your vodka. And you'll probably go to jail for it as well. So not the best option. So you want to target hyper-relevant keywords. Now, what does this mean? If I'm selling a dog training book, my keyword is basically going to be dog training. And then who am I selling it to? See, I told you I can't spell training. There we go. And who am I selling it to? I'm selling it to kids because my book is a dog training book for kids. Adults are not going to find it especially good because it's just kid illustrations and kid talk, and then the way it's written is for kids. So adults are not going to be attracted to it. So now if I target this keyword in my ads and in my SEO and everything, so I make sure I index for the keyword and I'm targeting it with ads. If I target this keyword in broad match on Amazon ads, then what that's going to do is it's going to take this fundamental keyword and show you for other ones that are so relevant to your book. So it's going to show you for dog training for kids ages 4 to 8. And you might start ranking really high for this keyword because your illustrations are super relevant to this age group. It might show you for easy dog training for kids. It might show you for simple dog training book for kids. It might show you for dog training book for boys because Amazon knows that boys is different, but it's also under kids. It might be relevant for boys or for girls or for children because sometimes people search for children instead of for kids, especially if you're targeting the UK marketplace, but sometimes people also type in children in the US marketplace. So if you give it a hyper-relevant keyword, it's going to be able to find other hyper-relevant keywords for you. But kids book is not relevant. Kids book can be anything. And you're casting a very, very wide net to try to get a few sales. But with this one, you're casting a small targeted net. And if you have a good book, you're guaranteed to get sales. If you have a good book that's relevant to your target audience, it's very hard for an alcoholic to come buy vodka, come to try to buy vodka from me, and for me to not sell him vodka. If he's an alcoholic and he loves vodka, and he drinks vodka 15 hours a day. He's gonna buy my vodka. He's looking for my vodka. He's coming to me because I have exactly what he wants. Now, personally, I don't like vodka. I'm more of a whiskey guy, but you get what I'm saying. But anyway, now that we got that out of the way, what is the system to rank number one? And it's actually super easy. Not super easy, but the system is simple. It will be a little bit of work to get through the entire system, but the system is simple. So you found your relevant keywords and you're targeting them with SEO and with ads. So you're indexing. Now, what does this mean? You're indexing in the correct places. That means you can actually start showing up for the relevant search terms. Now, I'm going to take away indexing because this indexing happens with your SEO and your ads. So I'm gonna put SEO and ads. These are what give you impressions. This means your book actually popped up on someone's screen. Great. So now you're getting impressions, but not just any random impressions. You're getting impressions from the correct place, from relevant keywords, from people already searching for your book. Great. So you're showing up. But now the important part isn't just to show up. People need to buy from you. So before they buy from you, they have to click on your book. So now your goal is to get as many clicks as possible, because the more clicks you get, the more you'll be able to sell. The more people are on your page right next to that buy button. So statistically, the more clicks you get, the more sales you will get. Now, this is all determined by your CTR. I've made a bunch of videos on the channel about CTR. So just scroll through it, go find CTR videos. You're gonna find it extremely valuable. I can't go over it right now because it's super, super big. And this is all to do with your book cover. Yes, it can be a little bit reviews and things like that, but your book cover is the main priority. Your book cover is 80% of the click. Now, if you're part of my program, you can just go on the book cover module. I share over 12 designs. We'll just go through that, watch the entire module, and you're gonna get a lot of value from that. And you'll be able to make book covers that are actually professional, stands out in your marketplace. And that's gonna help you get way more clicks, and it makes the entire process so much easier. Now, after you get the click, it's all about your conversion rate, because this is the amount of people that actually buy per 100 clicks. So if you have 100 clicks, and then 10 people buy, you have a 10% conversion rate. If 100 people clicked on your book from your relevant keyword, and then because it's so relevant, 22 people bought, then you have a 22% conversion rate. It's the people that you convert after the click. So the more clicks you have, then the more sales you get, because your conversion rate can stay the same. So if I have 100 clicks at a 22% conversion rate, then that means I make 22 sales. If I have 200 clicks at a 22% conversion rate, then that means I have 44 sales. Because the conversion rate stays the same, but the clicks increase. So the sales increase because the conversion rate is the middleman in a way. I hope that makes sense. Now, your CVR is strongly determined by your marketing. This is usually your reviews, A+ content, everything that's going to sell your book. This has to be spot on, because the better this is, the more people you're conversing for the same amount of clicks. If you increase this, you directly increase your sales. Now, for the most part, it's easier to increase this, or it's cheaper to increase this to get more sales rather than to increase this, because to increase this is usually ads, and ads are usually higher price rather than just increasing your conversion rate, because you can change a few sentences in your description, a few sentences in your A+ content. You can change your modules a bit. Maybe you can change a little bit how your design is. So it might require an hour or two of work, and it can drastically boost your conversion rate. So without you having to spend more money or try to gather more clicks, you're already making more sales. Now, if you mess up right at the start and you give an irrelevant keyword, you're going to be shown for it. You might even get a click, very few clicks, because it's not relevant. And even those few clicks that you're going to get, because it's not very relevant, your conversion rate is going to be low as well, because it's not really what they're searching for. So less people are going to buy it. That's why relevant keyword is extremely important. You're going to go through this system. You're going to be shown for the keyword. If you have a high CTR, you're going to get a bunch of clicks. If you don't know how to do this, super important. Study book cover design. If you're part of my program, I already have everything there for you. You can just go through the entire module. You're fine. You'll understand how to make professional book covers. Then you have to understand the marketing. I have a bunch of marketing videos on this channel. Scroll through the channel, learn about conversion rate and marketing. You're going to increase your conversion rate, and that's going to bring in sales straight away. If you already have an existing book, increase your conversion rate, you're already making more money, as long as you know how. Now, here's where the special thing is. This is where everything comes together. Your conversion rate determines your sales. The higher your conversion rate, the more sales you make. But here's the thing. Your conversion rate does two things. If you have a high conversion rate, the first thing that's going to happen is you're going to start getting reviews. Now, we know that reviews are important, because what do reviews do? This is social proof. And the more reviews you have, the more social proof you have, the higher your conversion rate. So your reviews directly increase your conversion rate. So just by making sales, just by having a high conversion rate, it will just start getting higher and higher purely because of the reviews. reviews. Now, if you have a low conversion rate, you're selling less, you're getting less reviews. If you're selling more, you're more likely to get more reviews. And that will just keep increasing your conversion rate. But there's one more very important thing that happens. If your conversion rate is high and also your CTR is high, because if your CTR is low, you're not bringing enough people on your listing to even convert them. If your CTR is high, it's like two open doors. You can let even more people in and even more people can buy from you. If you have a low CTR, you have one door closed. Very few people can get in. People are getting smushed. You don't have enough area for the people to move in. I hope that makes sense. But anyway, if your conversion rate is high, guess what that does? That helps Amazon rank you higher. Why does Amazon want to rank you higher? Because you're making a lot of sales for a few clicks. You're extremely relevant and you're exactly what the target customer is looking for. So that increases customer satisfaction because you're getting high reviews, because of your high conversion rate. And then because your click-through rate is high enough to let enough people in and your conversion rate is high enough to convert them, you're getting multiple sales every single day. And that's what ranking is all about. Amazon wants to push up the ones that are making the most amount of sales for the relevant keywords because each keyword is different. Now, your job is just to target relevant keywords and have a good book. That's all you need to do. This might be difficult because it requires skill, but while you're learning the skill, your books get better and better, and then you get closer and closer to higher conversion rates, higher click-through rates. I try to help as much on the channel. You can scroll through other videos and see me specifically talk about each of these parts. But as your ranking increases, guess what that does? If you're being shown higher and higher, your ranking increases your impressions. Guess what happens when your impressions are increased? What else is increased? Your click-through rate stays the same, but because there's more people looking, more people are clicking. And if more people are clicking, what does that do? More people are buying. And if more people are buying, what does that do? More reviews start coming in, which causes more people to buy. And you get higher ranks. And you just start ranking higher and higher and higher, and you have multiple of these relevant keywords, and then you slowly start to dominate a niche. That's exactly what I did. That's how I was able to scale the book in 45 days to profit. I got it ranking super, super high using this exact method. And now that book has steadily made over $1,000 a month in net profit, no revenue, net profit. And in the first 45 days, it became profitable. So it was not profitable for 45 days. And because I ran this system, within 45 days, it turned profitable. And then that book is making $1,000 a month in net profit because of this system. But anyway, a video just popped up here. I think you're going to find it extremely valuable. Click on it, watch it. You're going to get a lot from it. And if you want to work directly, one-on-one with me, if you're a serious publisher and you want to work with me and you want to learn from me, just go in the description. There's a link there. You'll figure it out. And yeah, go out there and make a bunch of money on KDP.